Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the grayscale trusts and how it looks like LTCN might be about ready to pop. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so it was kind of a mixed day in the markets today. As you guys can see, some of the crypto's up, some's down. Bitcoin and Ethereum are up absolutely huge. Again, I believe it's the Nashville Bitcoin conference is going to be next week. And we also have the potential trading beginning of the spot Ether ETFs also next week. So expecting crypto to go up. I just want to show you guys some quick crypto stuff. So all of the miners were up today, at least the ones that we talk about here on the channel. And also MicroStrategy and Coinbase just were absolute monsters today. MicroStrategy was up nearly 15% and Coinbase up 10%. And that was reflected in the prices of MSTY and Coney. So that's good. That means our passive income dividends per share are going to go up. Price is going to go up. That's always good. Even though the markets were down, crypto was up. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So LTCN, you can see we did close the week above the EMAs. Okay. So we are potentially getting a golden cross here on the yellow and the blue EMA. As you guys know, that usually is my signal for getting into a swing trade. Again, this is not necessarily a swing trade setup. This is kind of different. I mean, a lot of you out there are probably looking to hold this for the peak of the bull run, which is understandable. We do have a lot of altcoin bags that we're doing exactly the same thing with. But you can see that we got this, well, it was kind of really choppy right here. But once we got this confirmed golden cross back here on LTCN, it was pretty much just a massive giant squeeze after that. So, and it doesn't always it's not always going to play out this way 100% whenever there is a golden cross on the blue and yellow EMA, but a lot of times it will end up eventually leading to this. So just that move alone, if you had taken that swing trade, would have been a nearly 384% gain. And again, usually when we do a swing trade on stocks, we only look for like a 15% gain. So this completely blows it out of the water. I mean, that would be like the equivalent of more than 20 swing trades, so it's pretty insane. But we have golden crosses on all three indicators here. The histogram on the MACD is also moving up and it's green, and you can see we have a lot of increasing green volume here. That's always a good sign, so everything looks very bullish. The only catch-22 here is even though we're above the EMAs on both time frames, we still have to get above this resistance, so that's again up there at $27. If we get above that, I mean, we're probably going to launch pretty fast all the way up to $34. So there may still be one retest of these EMAs on the daily time frame. That usually does happen after a golden cross. There's usually a golden cross, then a test, and then a takeoff from that point. So just keep that in mind. So right now, I would pretty much say that maybe somewhere. Well, you know what? I'm just going to go with the trend line still because of the fact that we're still below resistance. Even though we're above the EMAs, I would still say the trend line is still going to hold as support here. So pretty much probably be looking anywhere between $18 to $20, I would say, going out to September. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, the Fed, according to the markets, is slated to start cutting rates in September, not November. So the inversion of the yield curve is, of course, as you guys know, a looming threat. That could be a risk to crypto and stocks. And the other thing is that September is usually a bearish seasonality month. Usually August, September, October is pretty bearish. We're getting closer to elections at that point, so markets are going to get kind of super volatile and maybe a little bit bearish because, you know, there's uncertainty and the markets don't like that. But I suspect towards the end of the year, we will get that big squeeze in the markets once the presidential nominee and the House and Senate has been decided for the midterms. So you got your support here, and then you have 24 to 27 on the resistance, and then the swing high all the way up here, $54. So I'm going to go ahead and swing the chart out here a little bit. So I've mentioned this briefly in previous videos for people that have been around for a while. You know how this goes, but for people that are new, so the $75 level I'm talking about right here is right at these candle tops. So you can see a lot of a lot of wicks kind of trading through here. That would be the $75 zone, and then 100 to 135 here. You can see why I've kind of mapped this out. So that's the top of this wick and the bottom of this wick here. That's usually a turning point. So this being the top of this wick, this being the bottom of this wick, you can see on both ends of the spectrum, this was a massive move. That's the reason why I chose this particular price area. So there would have been nearly a 75% move to the downside in that instance. And on this instance, on the flip side, on the bull side, would have been a monstrous 365% gain. So 100 to 135 bucks. And then we're looking at roughly about, I'd say probably somewhere in the 300 to about the $400 range is probably what we're looking at. And then 510 all the way up there at the all-time highs. So going back in here, once again, we need to get above this resistance, and then it will be liftoff from that point. So just going from, let's say, the current price all the way to the swing high is a 119% move. If we get a pullback of some kind, which is always a possibility, it then becomes a 190% move. Again, kind of the first glass ceiling that we would have to smash our head against here. And I'm not telling anybody to smash their head, don't misunderstand me. It would be roughly about $32 to $33, and then potentially looking at like roughly about 45, and then all the way up there at that swing high. So BCHG, go down to the daily on this one. So daily time frame, everything looks good. We got the triple golden cross here, golden cross on the RSI, MACD, and now on the EMAs. We just need the yellow one to get above the red one to fully confirm it. Although usually when it comes to actual swing trading, I simply use just the yellow and the blue one. The red one is for day trading. It's not necessarily for swing trading. But as soon as we get that confirmation on the yellow one, then it should be good to go. It looks like we might even have our retest right now before taking off. I did tell you guys about that retest. So once again, we're above the EMAs here on the close, but we also need to get above this resistance. Same thing as LTCN. So support, in my opinion, is still going to be down here at 690 to 770. Again, until we get a breakout and flip this zone, that's going to be the support down there. And then because we're kind of stuck in the middle of these three zones, I would say this would be the target that I'd be looking for up here at 18 to 20, and then above that 24. So from current price to the top of this resistance, 76%, and then you have 110% respectively. Going all the way back down to support here, then it becomes much, much higher. So 180% to roughly about 230% respectively. HZEN, still kind of stuck in between this wedge. So this is a very bullish pattern. Actually, I can pull up another chart that I can show you guys that had this exact same pattern. Okay. And usually what happens is it coils down and then breaks to the upside. That's usually what happens with a falling wedge. In this case, you guys can see the move was absolutely monstrous. It literally only took 5 weeks after it broke out to get back up to this resistance. So it was pretty fast. It pretty much was over before it even started. So that pretty much shows you a real life example there of what the falling wedge is expected to do. Do keep in mind the weekly prices again above the EMAs. We did bounce off this support, and we are currently testing this the top of this wedge here, so that's very bullish. Again, the target for the wedge is the top of the wedge, so roughly about $10.50 up there. If we get another pullback, which again could happen because we're still in the wedge, roughly about 390 to 4.25 there on resistance. Above head 690 to 810, and then 10.5 respectively. So from the current price, let's say, to the top of resistance, 42%, and then 83% respectively. From the support all the way to the top of resistance, 106% to 168%. So ETCG, I think ETCG and ETH are just simply in a waiting period. I mean, yes, we have the news that potentially the spot E3 ETFs might start trading next week. However, it's not actually fact until it starts happening, right? So this is what the markets will often do when they're waiting for an actual news catalyst. Like typically markets kind of trade sideways, up and down some, but mostly sideways before CPI or an FOMC meeting. Very similar situation here. So again, the support is going to be 11 to 13. The targets I'd be looking at would be up here at $17.70 to $20. I guess if you want to take a look at the target above this, you'd be looking at about $15.80. So I'll just measure from the current price. You're looking at roughly about 35, 36%, and then 72% respectively on ETCG. So ETH, pretty straightforward here. Cup and handle, big cup, handle, breakout. I actually need to move this support out just a little bit because it does look like it's retesting here, but basically the cup and handle target is all the way up here at $47, which again is right at that swing high back there, or I guess the previous peak for this one. So the current support roughly about 26 to 29, resistance is 41 to about, we'll just call it 48, round it up and call it 48, but it's 47.70 specifically. So from the current price to the top of the resistance zone is a 59% move. If you manage to get at the bottom of the support to the resistance zone, then becomes 87%. So FILG, this one does indeed still look like it wants to come lower. So I'm just going to go ahead and call off this inverse head and shoulders pattern target. By the way, just so you all know, it was actually lower than the previous all-time high. So I think it's kind of irrelevant at this point. But you can see that we closed yet another lower red candle here. So I do suspect we're probably going to come back and retest 37 to 40 down here as support before ultimately the bull market truly begins closer towards the end of the year. So to give you the estimate of here of how much this could drop, it's still roughly about another 45%. So maybe a DCA strategy or waiting to get to that support. Either way, I think it's a good strategy. Again, that's not financial advice, but this would be about a 917% move. GBAT, so we're still kind of stuck in this descending triangle here, which again, this is not necessarily bearish. In my mind, this would be bearish if we were in a downtrend, but we're not in a downtrend because again, this is resistance turns support. What you would want to look for with a descending triangle to be bearish is if we're already in a downtrend, and this is not a downtrend. So I do suspect this is actually going to break to the upside. But again, 780 to about 970 is going to be your support, and then the target is all the way up here at 32. So from the current price to the target, 229%, and then from the, let's say, bottom of support here all the way up to the all-time highs, 300% move. GLIV, we got a small tick up on this one, but again, we are still below this trend line here. And again, this is technically a descending triangle here. However, once again, this is a flip zone, so resistance turns support. If this was a descending triangle below this support, I would say it's bearish, but in this case, it's not. In my opinion, it's actually bullish. So maybe we might be getting an inverse head and shoulders target breakout here. Again, if that does happen, let's just say maybe, I don't know, next week, then the target would be about $78 and then $80 right above that for the highs. So support down here, roughly about 1160 to 1450. From the current price all the way to the all-time high, 185% move. And then from support all the way to the all-time high, roughly about 523%. So G-Link, we did get a rejection off of the resistance line here. Once again, I would say likely this is probably going to be a bullish breakout. It's just not ready to break out yet. So support 65 to 85, and then the all-time high up here at 220. So the risk here on the drop could be as much as about 35%. In my opinion, that's not bad. I mean, that's happens all the time in crypto. People use the term hodl, right? Hold on for dear life, because you really never know when the price is going to go up or how much is going to go up. Unless you study the cycles, then it gives you kind of a generalized idea of what to expect. So 190% move here. GSOL, we did try to get a break for the highs, but we got kind of a rejection. So this is a shooting star candle that's pretty bearish. I will say it is bullish though, however, because it's still kind of above these candle highs up here. So that, in my opinion, is still bullish. We are above the trend line as well. So once again, with this one, I mean, there's so many other opportunities in the markets. I personally would not touch this one, but the risk here is nearly 66% to the downside compared to, if we get a run for the highs and then it just drops to the floor. I mean, you're talking a 300% risk for 100% gain in this case. I mean, that's not the exact numbers, but you get the idea. Generally, when I'm trading, I usually look for the inverse, so a 3-to-1 risk reward, meaning 300% gain for 100% loss, or not exactly those numbers, but basically the reward needs to be 3x the risk. So if it gets down to support here, which again is 165 to 200, that is when I would be looking to buy. So the swing all the way up to the highs up here, 225% move. GXLM, so I don't know what the heck this is. This is, man, that's weird. Okay, so whatever the case, we're back down below this lower part of this channel here. So once again, the target then becomes $25 as support. So pretty much from $25, we're looking at 118 or 116% at $53, 139% at $58, and 180% at $69 or $70. Mana, so this thing just keeps on retesting the zone. I suspect it is going to bounce at some point. I mean, this is a very heavily traded, strong previous resistance turn support. So once again, that zone is between $18 to roughly about $20, and the swing high is all the way up here at 70. So from the current price to the swing high, roughly about a 271% move. Zcash. So Zcash's support currently is 430 to 510, and then the resistance is $8 to 970. And then you have roughly about 10 and a quarter up there at that swing high. This one looks bullish. I would say this is pretty bullish. It does look like it wants to move up. It's above the EMAs, above support, above the trend line. Everything looks good as far as I'm concerned. There's a possibility it could still pull back, but that's always a possibility even after a breakout. So 92% move. If you get it lower in the support, it then's become 131%. And the reason why I say it's a possibility is because typically speaking, usually when these things do break out, they come back and retest support and then launch to the upside. That's usually what happens. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.